What's up, everybody? Welcome to the breakdown where we talk about everything cars, news, and reviews. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Today's episode, I'm going to be exploring the Mazda CX-90 and why it just might be the saving grace to the automotive industry. So stick around and stay tuned because you are now watching the breakdown. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to me and the YouTube algorithm if you did. Also, don't forget to click that like button because it does let the YouTube algorithm know what you like, and hopefully you still like this video by the time I'm done with it. So let's get into it. So the Mazda CX-90 has been rumored up until recently and been teased and teased and teased, and many of the automotive enthusiasts out there didn't know what to think about it. I have got to say, looking at this, it is gorgeous. Now, it does give some elements of the CX-50, and many of the people who have the CX-50 or who were planning to upgrade to the CX-50 have complained that it wasn't up to spec as the old CX-5. But this CX-90 is a complete departure from the CX-9, and I think that the CX-90 will be it'll pretty much be the car that signifies that we are not done with internal combustion engines. Even with the laws and regulations that are coming in play and we slowly move into electric vehicles, the CX-90 is a love letter to the inline six and the joint marriage of automotive enthusiasm with the SUV practicality that every suburban parent would like. Now, beforehand, the CX-9, which was the predecessor to the CX-90, was not that great looking, but if anybody has been keeping up with Mazda, they'll know that Mazda has been actively working to move up market in the automotive segment. And the biggest thing that really gave Mazda the confidence to do this is once they pretty much separate themselves and bought their stake back, now we have begun to slowly see the improvements in not just the styling cues, but also in the dynamic and the quality of materials that are produced in such products such as the CX-30, the Mazda 3, Mazda 6, and other products alike, especially the very well popular CX-5. When I initially saw the CX-90, I was almost taken away at the aesthetic and the gorgeousness of Mazda. And for anybody who knows what Mazda used to be back in the early 90s, you cannot equate those cars to the cars that Mazda is producing today. They are completely different, and the brand has completely changed its overall aesthetic to become more of a luxury car. Now, the cool thing about this is that the Mazda CX-90 will come standard with all-wheel drive and a turbocharged inline six, which for those of you who don't know, those are exceedingly rare in today's world of front-wheel drive CVTs. Now, in the old times, it was just a Turbo 4 was the largest engine that you could get, but now we are getting our first inline six, which basically is a longitudinally opposed engine and is not a cheap car to manufacture. Most companies will go towards the front wheel drive CVT route or front wheel bias, but Mazda has been working actively, especially with Toyota, because they're going to have a joint venture plant in Huntsville, Alabama, and this is going to pretty much tell us what we can expect from Mazda going forward. The CX-90 has set the precedent of what we truly believe a merger between practicality and enthusiasm should be. From a styling standpoint, the Mazda CX-90 has some really cool, crisp, elegant lines, but even in the front, you know, this is almost like a cutoff that kind of gives it a more regalness about it, and that tends to guide the eyes to the silky smooth lines and the more aerodynamics of it to give it a more posh feel. I am almost certain that this will command more presence on the road than any other SUV that you'll see in that regard. Not necessarily luxury, because luxuries are a completely different segment, but aside from the mass-produced things that you see. Now, I do believe that based on these design elements shown in the Mazda CX-90, we will begin to see a really gorgeous and well-told story. Even in the commercial, you could see the aesthetic and the draw of this was a premium designed car, and they truly took their time trying to make this car. And I have got to say, there is nothing more inspiring from a manufacturing standpoint to see all of your hard work, and especially there's been some, even in the commercial, there's some splitting of the parts, and I used to work in parts back at Honda, and to see the parts separated and then to see them conjoined together, absolutely inspiring when you see all of the hard work and design that they put into each detail and combine them and essentially make those cars art. So from a rear wheel drive perspective, it's almost uncanny to see the joint ventures between Toyota, BMW, and then those spill over into Mazda, really lifting the brand up to get people to be prepared for this transition, because this is more of a transition than anything. And Mazda has officially basically said, we are that girl. And you will begin to see some of those elements from BMW to Toyota into Mazda in their powertrains. Now, there are two different powertrain choices, which are the inline 6 turbo, and there also is the plug-in hybrid, which contains the 2.5 liter inline 4. But the plug-in prime is going to be, or the plug-in hybrid, not the plug-in prime. The plug-in hybrid will be the one that I believe is going to be the most impactful to their sales, because where there's other options, there's not quite that many options, and Mazda is going to take complete advantage of that in the large SUV segment. The really cool thing about this is it does have the 48 volt mild hybrid system, and it is partial emissions vehicles, basically partially hybrid emissions vehicle. But anytime you have a electric motor setup in addition to an engine setup, you're always going to get that on-demand torque, and that's really going to make people flock to the plug-in. Talk today. That's really going to make people flock to the plug-in hybrid system, because for the average consumer, they don't care about the performance and they don't understand the spec involved with rear-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive bias all-wheel drive in addition to inline turbo 6. They only care about three things: practicality, fuel efficiency, and safety for this type of buyer. Unlike the last generation, they gave it many more masculine lines, which is going to appeal to more men and not feel as though they're driving a girly car for all intents and purposes. As I said before, a lot of the elements from BMW to Toyota to Mazda, you will also see in the transmission. The older model did use a traditional conventional automatic. The newer one will be using an 8-speed automatic, which I am almost certain, I have no details on this, but I'm almost certain that this is going to be a derivative of the 8-speed ZF transmission that BMW uses. And so this is going to be really, really, really good, because they also get 20 to 30 miles of electric range, which that's kind of like the seep in, the transition, the get us to buy these electric vehicles before they become that way. And plug-in hybrids are cool because they give you the option to either plug it in or just put gas in it. And this is a really, really, really good piece and a really good play on Mazda to use this as their debut to their new systems. And we will begin to see these transmission and engine choices spill over into other models. Now, considering that Mazda has done a front-wheel drive layout for so long, they are very good at packaging and design. From an interior standpoint, quality of materials is impeccable. You can tell that they genuinely source the materials properly. You can tell that they're going to be of quality. They're not going to be of eats and creaks. And Toyota is all about quality and reliability. And so I would believe that the joint venture in the Huntsville plant is going to make it that much easier for Toyota to monitor control over how Mazda assembles this car. And considering this won't be imported from Japan, this will give them a lot more domestic control in how they source the parts, where they get the parts from, and the availability of these units once they're dished out. From a pricing and availability standpoint, this car will not be cheap. This will more than likely be upwards of $50,000 to $60,000, but the average person that's looking at these, which I see as a conflict, would see the pricing as a problem, because the dealers definitely are going to mark it up. We didn't get much from the interior standpoint. There's a ton of videos out there about the interior quality and what they see. This is a desk review, so I can't give you much. But what I can tell you is that over the last 5 to 6 years, Mazda has truly improved their quality of their interiors, and this is no different. It is going to be more conservative than something like a BMW, Mercedes, a Lexus, because that's the market they're moving towards. But it will be a quality product, and it will be of luxury standard. And I'm almost inclined to believe that because of this, Mazda will use this as an opportunity to see how people receive their brand going up market. Now, the cool thing is that Mazda currently, their most expensive vehicle is around the 40,000 mark, which is the CX-9. And going to the CX-90, because you're going to get the inline 4 hybrid model in addition to the turbo 6, there's going to be different trims that you can choose from and still get the same amount of fun regardless of what engine choice you get. Don't know the full ins and outs. We won't know until the later of this spring, basically. But you can expect this to be a great bargain, especially if you are in the market for an SUV. If I were to be in the market, would I consider this? I would consider this under 3 different metrics. What is my budget? 2, what are my options? Because you should always have 2 to 3 options. And 3, do I admire the brand or do I not care for them? Most people are going to take the latter as the priority, and you shouldn't. I would strongly consider this if I was in the market for a BMW, but I did not want to necessarily pay BMW prices. In some cases, Mazda is regarded as the BMW of Japan. I would say be on the lookout for this one, especially if you want a 3-row, because there's more 2 rows than 3 rows, and 3 rows are in some cases mostly necessary for families, and this is a big purchase for them. So if I were in the market, I would strongly consider the CX-90 if I had several kids, a dog, and soccer games at 2. And with that being said, let me know what you think about the Mazda CX-90, and until the next video, I will see you later.